There are few people in Naruto as prolific and as misunderstood as the legendary Sannin. They are fan favorites, incredibly powerful, older generation shinobi that for some reason we don't know that much about. Well, at least the majority of the fan base. I know quite a lot about them, so soon, so will you. So before we get into today's lesson, please, for me, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. I'd also like to say thank you to Jen for this idea. I could try and fit all three of the legendary Sannin into one video, but that video would be probably either kind of choppy and I would have to skip a lot of the information I want to cover about the legendary Sannin, or it would be an hour and a half long, because these are three of the most interesting characters in the entirety of Naruto with very well fleshed out backstories that I would like to go into. I also want to talk about their abilities, their motivations, everything that makes them a legendary Sannin. So instead, this will be a three-part series, starting with Tsunade. Why are we starting with Tsunade? Well, because she's my favorite of the three. Do you want to know something that a lot of people actually don't know about Tsunade? She's actually a descendant of the Senju and the Uzumaki clan. She's not a full-blooded Senju. In fact, her father was a Senju while her mother was an Uzumaki. Tsunade is known as the strongest kunaichi on Earth. And on top of that, she's also known as the strongest medical ninja on Earth. On top of that, she was the only one of the legendary Sannin to become a Hokage, the fifth one to be exact. But we have a long way to go until we reach her becoming Hokage. Let's start with her childhood. As I just alluded to, she was the granddaughter of Hashirama, which actually gave her the nickname of Princess around the village, because Hashirama was kind of the king or the god of all ninjas, and in this circumstance, the king of Konoha. Tsunade and Hashirama were very, very close, because Tsunade was his first grandchild, so he doted on her, which wasn't good because Hashirama was not a good role model. He actually found the deviance and the addiction to gambling that she inherited from him very funny. But that's not all she got from Hashirama. She also inherited his necklace, which is said to be worth more than the mines outside of Konoha when Hashirama died. It was at this point that she joined the Ninja Academy and was teamed with Orochimaru and Jiraiya under the tutelage of Hiruzen Sarutobi. Tsunade's brother Nawaki followed her footsteps and joined the Ninja Academy when he was of age. Nawaki became a ninja because he wanted to become Hokage one day. So on Nawaki's 12th birthday, Tsunade kisses him on the forehead and gives him the necklace that Hashirama had given to her. Since the person who had given her the necklace was Hashirama, the first Hokage, she figured that this necklace would help him achieve his dream. And while it does work for someone a little bit later, that person wasn't Nawaki, because Nawaki dies the next day. Nawaki is killed in the Second Great Shinobi World War as a genin with his three-man team, which, like, why are the 12-year-olds fighting the war? Maybe Konoha, they were never the good guys? However, it was her brother's untimely death and the fact that there was no one there on the battlefield to heal him that spurred Tsunade to get into medical ninjutsu and advocate for the addition of a medical nin or a medical ninja to every three-man squad. She brings this argument to Hiruzen, who was her old master, and he agrees but says he can't allocate the resources for that kind of training and placement because of the ongoing war. By the way, I'll be covering all the Great Shinobi World Wars at some point in like super long depth, but in summation, essentially the Second Great Shinobi World War was about, well, it was about a couple of things. Mostly money, like most wars. Essentially, the First World War came to a conclusion with an armistice. Armistice? I don't know how to say the word. They all shook hands at the end, and there was a 20-year period of peace. However, a world war leaves nations incredibly scarred and damaged, particularly in countries where the fighting had taken place. Konoha was not one of those. So while some countries focused on rebuilding what was destroyed by the wars, other countries just got to focus on building up. And this led to other countries being massively more rich than the ones that had to rebuild. Because of this, the countries that had to rebuild started leeching into other countries' territories to steal it in order to bolster their wealth. And I don't know if you guys know how peace works, but that's not it. The war was between the village hidden in the rain, the village hidden in the stone, the village hidden in the clouds, and Konoha. The mist was just like, I'm good. And we don't know this for sure, but this is presumed off some of the information that we have, most notably Nagato saying that Konoha were the people who started that war, that the village hidden in the rain started to leech into Konoha's territory in order to steal some of their territory to bolster their wealth. So Konoha launched an offensive at the village hidden in the rain. And then somehow the village in the clouds and the stone got involved. We don't really know. But what's important about this war is it's where the title, the legendary Sannin, came from. And it's actually where Tsunade rose to fame. Hanzo the Salamander, one of the most badass and underexplained people in the entirety of this show, was fighting Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade, and gave them the title of the legendary Sannin, which just literally directly translates to 3 legendary ninja. This meant a lot coming from him, considering he was the leader of the Hidden Rain and powerful enough to defeat all 3 of them simultaneously. But we'll get back to the Second Great Ninja War in a second. The reason we were talking about the Second Great Ninja War is because essentially Hiruzen said that he didn't have the resources to give Tsunade to add a medical nin to every 4-man group. But there was one person who completely agreed with Tsunade and wanted to see it done, and that was Dan Kato, her lover, and also possibly Minato's father. A video about that right here. Dan and Tsunade met during the Second Great Ninja War, and she told him her dreams to make sure that nobody would die on the battlefield, and he echoed those same dreams right back to her. As they grew closer, Dan told Tsunade his dream to become Hokage and stop anyone from ever dying in a war again. Tsunade, being a medic herself, sympathizes with this and kisses him on a forehead and gives him her necklace like she did with her younger brother Naoki. And you won't believe what happened to him. He dies. We don't necessarily know what happens to Dan to make him start losing a massive amount of blood, but essentially he gets cut and deep. And as he's hemorrhaging all of this blood, Tsunade is trying to stop all of it, but she can't because her medical ninjutsu isn't strong enough to heal what's happened to Dan. Imagine the hopelessness that Tsunade feels here. She became a medical nin to stop people from dying that were close to her, like Naoki. Now she has the power to do that, and it's still not enough to help Dan. This trauma is so deep-seated for her that because she can't stop his blood loss, she develops massive hemophilia, the fear of blood. And once again, her necklace is returned to her, making her start to believe that the necklace is cursed to kill anybody whose neck it goes around except for her own. She starts to believe that dreams of being Hokage is a fool's errand because everybody she's ever known who wanted to be Hokage died before they even got close to achieve that dream. And this is why I love Tsunade as a character. She is the only person in the entirety of Naruto we've ever seen deal with PTSD. Think about how massively terrifying these wars must be. The fact that there isn't an entire generation of ninjas who have been broken by these wars is baffling. On top of that, another reason I love her is the dichotomy of her character. Tsunade leaves the war scorned, hateful, and more than anything, believing that she is a failure as a medical ninja. But to the Leaf, she is the only reason they won. Let's hop back to the Second Great Ninja War real quick. So Tsunade, Orochimaru, and Jiraiya are standing on a battlefield in the Hidden Rain, and across from them is Danzo. Those 3 are the only people that survived the fight against him in the Hidden Rain. This is where he gives them their legendary Sannin title. It's at the aftermath of this battle that Jiraiya decides to stay in the Hidden Rain and raise the Ame orphans. Orochimaru goes to continue fighting in the Second Great Ninja War and also be creepy and try and find immortality. But Tsunade does something incredibly important. Remember how I said the Hidden Stone and the Hidden Cloud were also involved? Well, they were, and Konoha was fighting against them. They were not allies. And you know who was in their prime during this war? Granny Chiyo. You know, the lady who helped Sakura kill Sasori in Shippuden? She was once one of the most powerful ninja on Earth. And that's strictly because of her proclivity for creating incurable poisons. All she had to do was get you with one Senbon, and then boom, you had a poison that nobody had the antidote for. So Tsunade dedicated her entire war effort to countering Granny Chiyo's poison. This means she would have to heal the wound, extract the poison, formulate what it is, and then create an antidote before that person died. And she had to do this hundreds of times. Her usefulness in the Second Great Ninja War revolutionized shinobi squads everywhere. She began to personally train medical ninja under her and assign them to squads. These squads saw massive increases in survival and success rates, making Konoha even more powerful. The system was so effective, it's still in effect to this day. Tsunade didn't see any of that. All she saw from that war was her lover in her arms, bleeding to death, while there was nothing that she could do, which is why, after the Second Great Ninja War ended, she left the Leaf. But before she left the Leaf, she decided to take somebody along with her, and that was Dan's niece, Shizune. Shizune was under the protection of Dan. He kept an eye out on her, and because he was dead, she no longer had anybody. So Tsunade decided to take her on as her assistant. Ironically, this was a really good choice because Shizune was born with a yin-yang release that allows her to visualize and then create any cells she wants. It is literally perfect for replacing limbs, filling in cuts, all of that. But she's also a fairly competent shinobi. She's a Jonin, which means she can pretty much box with the best of them. And she actually has to do this a lot because after the Second Great Ninja War, Tsunade takes a vow to neither do medical practice or battles from now on, so it's all left up to Shizune should that situation arise. To this point that she takes all of her shinobi earnings and she goes and travels the world and gambles and loses a bunch of money everywhere. It's kind of a blank period in her life. Flash forward like, I don't know, 10, 15 years, it's not really clear, and Tsunade is gambling in a casino and she hits a jackpot, which never happens because she's well known to be a loser in all things gambling. She identifies this as a bad omen because there's no way that her luck would switch like that. And believe it or not, she was right because she's smart and she knows herself. 2 hours later, her and Shizune are visiting a castle, and then Orochimaru decides to destroy said castle with a big ass snake. Manda, to be specific. At that point that Orochimaru asks her to heal his arms that were chopped off using the Death Reaper seal by Hiruzen, and she refuses until he says that he is able to revive both Nawaki and Dan. He gives her a week to make a decision. And in kind of like a 25-year reunion type moment, then Jiraiya finds her the next day and asks her to be the 5th Hokage. Because remember the whole Hiruzen thing with Orochimaru? Yeah, he died at the end of that. She says no, because everybody she's ever known who's aspired to be the Hokage has died. She has a bitter taste in her mouth for anybody who wants to become Hokage because that resolve has always resulted in the people closest to her's deaths. At this point that Naruto, who's with Jiraiya, gets pissed and tries to attack her and then challenges the strongest Koinaichi on earth to a fight as a 12-year-old. She then proceeds to literally deflect and attack him with only one finger, and he gets really pissed and tries to use a Rasengan against her, for which she's upset with Jiraiya for even trying to teach him. So they decide to make a deal that if Naruto can master the Rasengan in 3 days, that she will give him his necklace, which is worth more money than he'll ever see, and if he can't, then he'll give her his wallet so she can go gamble it all away. And you know the story. Naruto does the Rasengan, puts it in Kabuto's chest, and gets him the hell out of there. And then Naruto gets the necklace from Tsunade, and then, you know, just like Dan and Nawaki, he dies. Now, obviously, he breaks the curse, and guess what? He's 1 for 3 out of becoming Hokage. Having overcome her fear of blood in her fight with Kabuto and reinvigorating her passion for the Leaf and just shinobidom in general by Naruto showing so much similarity to Nawaki and Dan, Tsunade then decides to actually accept the offer of becoming the 5th Hokage. And this is kind of like Tsunade's renaissance. She's been a husk of a person traveling around the world with no real direction, gambling to fill the hole in her heart. And what's the first thing that she does when she pulls up on Konoha? Oh, I don't know. She just heals the minds of Sasuke and Kakashi. Both Sasuke and Kakashi have been put in Tsukiyomi by Itachi when he pulled up on the Leaf. And her medical ninjutsu is so good that she can alleviate other people's mental woes. Oh, and after that, I don't know, she just performs a surgery that she's the only person on Earth who can perform and literally fixes Rock Lee's spine to such a degree that he becomes one of the strongest ninjas in the world when he could barely walk before. But here's the thing, she just inherited the Hokage dumb after all of Konoha had been destroyed and Hiruzen just straight up died. There was so much stuff she had to take on immediately. And people refer to her as the worst Hokage, or at least second worst to Hiruzen, because of a couple of the decisions she made. But here's the thing, there has been no Hokage put in a worse situation than Tsunade, with maybe the exception of Hiruzen. Like, look at the first thing she had to deal with. Oh, you know that last Uchiha we had? Yeah, he just left with Orochimaru, the guy who you just refused to heal, and is also probably trying to steal his body and his Sharingan. Oh, that's bad. That's really bad. So we got to send some people after him. Small problem though, everyone's dead because of the three-headed snake that Orochimaru, that same dude, keeps popping up everywhere, summoned to smash everybody. So the highest ranking person she can send to lead the group is a Chunin, and she doesn't have a lot of those left, so she has to send Shikamaru, but she says, hey, listen, recruit as many Genin as you can. And when she finds out that it's actually the Sound Village 4 that are escorting Sasuke, I guess, she actually calls the village hidden in the sand and is like, hey, remember that guy who just murdered your Kazekage? Yeah, well, he might get a Sharingan soon. Can you send some help? And then boom, recruits more help. And thank God for it, because let's be real, that surgery wouldn't have meant much if Kimimaro had kept going the way he was going against Rock Lee. That being said, if Kimimaru's disease doesn't take him out last second against Rock Lee and Gaara simultaneously, it would have been GG's. You know who else narrowly escaped death? Choji, and it's only because of Tsunade. What do I mean? Oh, remember how Choji wasn't able to activate butterfly mode at a young age, so he had to use the tricolored pills to do it? And remember how the tricolored pills are essentially like the 8 gates, in that by eating them, your body is able to burn the fat on your body way quicker than it usually can. And since the Akamichis use burned calories to convert into power, if you go all the way up to the red, you can reach a maximum state of power. Only problem is you burn so many calories, you actually burn your entire body's energy reserves, and then you're gone. But you leave a pretty corpse, I guess. So yeah, Choji used that and should have died. I also stand to the camp that it would have been kind of cool if he did die there, just the same way as it would have been cool if Neji had died in the Sasuke retrieval arc, but Choji's a good character, so I'm happy he's still around. But you want to know how Tsunade saved his life? Well, if you've seen this video of me talking about the Nara clan specifically, you'll understand that the Naras are well known for their medical textbooks that they write. The Nara for generations have been studying medicinal herbs, medicinal remedies, and just general medicine. But this is very specific to Konoha. They don't want to spread this information about. So Tsunade, hearing that an Akamichi has been afflicted by some kind of 8 Gates-esque death pill, understands that it's more likely than not that you will find the answer on how to cure this pill's side effects from the Nara medicinal clan books. So she reads all of them and then improvises a way to save Choji's life, something that nobody had ever been able to do prior to her. Anyone who had ever eaten a red pill prior to Choji died. It's at this point that Sakura, kind of dismayed with the fact that Shikamaru essentially said they didn't need her on the Sasuke retrieval arc, reaches out to Tsunade and asks her to train her. And so in the time skip where Naruto is off training with Jiraiya and all things Rasengan and Sage mode, Sakura is training under Tsunade. And Tsunade essentially says, well, I might be the strongest Kunoichi ever, but I think I'm just gonna make somebody even stronger than me. You can see how strong she is in this video right here. But to surmise, she taught her medical ninjutsu so impressive that she could perform operations that usually require several medical nin by herself, taught her chakra control so precise that she can catch ninjutsu and throw it back, and taught her strength so powerful she is now the strongest person in Konoha, Naruto and Sasuke included. So now it's Shippuden and Tsunade is still Hokage, right? One of the first things that happens in Shippuden is that Gaara, the Kazekage, gets abducted, and Tsunade makes the impertinent decision, and something that a lot of people in the village didn't agree with, to send Team 7 in Naruto. Many people told Tsunade that it wasn't a wise choice to send a Jinchuriki when the Akatsuki were looking for Jinchuriki, but Tsunade, knowing that because both Gaara and Naruto were Jinchuriki, that Naruto would most likely be the best person to send because of the bond. However, when she wins the lottery after sending Team 7, she realizes it's a dark omen. She's still gambling, even as Hokage. So that's when she decides to send Team Guy as well. And this actually saves Team 7's life. They get the Kazekage back, Gaara's back alive, granted Chiyo is dead, the person who Tsunade spent her entire life fighting, ironically, and we're all good. And here's the thing, this isn't the first time that people are gonna doubt that Tsunade should send Naruto out on a mission. The Akatsuki are looking for him. We should huddle him up in the village somewhere and make sure that nobody can get to him. But Tsunade made the genius level decision to say that if he's always out on missions, it's gonna be really hard for the Akatsuki to locate him. And she was absolutely right. Every other village made the choice to keep their Jinchuriki close when they learned about the Akatsuki, and every other village lost their Jinchuriki. And when Danzo insisted on putting Sai on Team 7's team in order to keep an eye on Naruto, she insisted that they add Yamato to his team because his wood release would help Naruto control the Nine-Tails chakra, which is genius considering the fact that that Nine-Tails chakra almost killed Jiraiya. The first real mistake that Tsunade makes is when she identifies the Akatsuki as a legitimate risk. She sends out 20 platoons of ninjas to find and capture or eliminate the members of the Akatsuki. Unfortunately for her, she drastically underestimated how powerful the Akatsuki was, and this ended up causing that one platoon that actually found members of the Akatsuki, that would be Asuma's team, to, well, you know, lose Asuma. However, when Team 10 wants to go back out to find Hidan and Kakuzo to exact their revenge for the death of their sensei, Tsunade insists that they take a fourth member with them. Otherwise, they're not allowed to leave. It's at this point that Kakashi says that he'll join them. And if you remember that fight at all, you'll remember without Kakashi, Team 10 was gonna die. She then began looking for backup for Team 10 and told Naruto that he would have to complete the new jutsu he was working on if he was to back them up. You know, the Rasen Shuriken, the one that kills Kakuzo? Well, actually, Kakashi kills Kakuzo. It was close enough. I swear, she made all of these incredible decisions as a Hokage, and yet people only use the next decision she made as an argument to say she was a bad Hokage. Because the next decision she made was to send Jiraiya to the Hidden Rain village to investigate the Akatsuki leader, Nagato, taking over the Hidden Rain village in a civil war. But here's the thing, it wasn't Tsunade's decision to send Jiraiya alone. Jiraiya relays to Tsunade that essentially the civil war has grown out of Nagato overthrowing Hanzo and trying to take over the Hidden Rain. And that because the political situation is so fragile, he should go alone in order to sneak in under the cover of, you know, just being alone. Tsunade begrudgingly accepts this and says she feels bad for always relying on him to do the dirty work. She instructs him to come back alive and even goes so far as to bet that he isn't going to come back, trying to use her bad luck in gambling to make sure that her actual love interest and possibly best friend returns to her. I say actual love interest because while Tsunade was with Dan in the beginning of her life, it's heavily implied that over the years, Tsunade and Jiraiya got closer and actually became love interests for each other. But here's the thing, Tsunade responds perfectly to Jiraiya's death. Unlike Naruto, who gets emotional and storms out of the Hokage's office, she instructs Shizune to do an autopsy on the animal path's body. She instructs Shikamaru to decipher the code that was given to them by Jiraiya. She even goes so far as to send Ibiki, the head of interrogation for Konoha, to interrogate the prisoner that Jiraiya took. She makes investigating Nagato top priority. Naruto, then wanting to get revenge for Jiraiya's death, goes to Mount Muabuko to train under the Toads. And when Tsunade knows that Nagato is coming to the Leaf Village, she asks to recall him, but the Council of Elders say no because they're afraid that he'll be in danger. She knew that if Jiraiya couldn't kill Nagato, that very few people in the Leaf would stand a chance outside of Naruto. But she doesn't try and overrule the elders or do anything out of line. No, instead she goes to the roof of the Hokage building, summons Lady Katsuyo, and tells her to split into millions of parts in order to latch onto each individual villager or shinobi to heal them remotely. And this comes in massively handy when Nagato does Shirai Tensei Almighty Push. Tsunade sends out the entirety of her Byakuya seal and body's chakra to Lady Katsuyo to make sure that all of the villagers, or at least most of the villagers, don't die from it. Listen, I know Almighty Push looked bad, but it could have been much worse. And even after she's depleted the entirety of her body's chakra, she still continues to try to take on pain. one-on-one. Obviously, this doesn't work. She slips into a coma, Gamakichi takes her away, and Naruto defeats Pain, but you know, Naruto didn't keep the entire village alive. Well, I guess in a sense he did, but you understand what I'm saying. When she wakes up from that coma, she then goes to a 5 Kage summit where the main topic of discussion is what to do with Killer Bee and Naruto. It's at this 5 Kage summit that she is the only person advocating for the two Jinchuriki to be fighting on the battlefield against Tobi and the Akatsuki. She argues they would be invaluable to the war effort, but the rest of the Kage vote to send them to seclusion on Turtle Island. You know, Turtle Island, where they fall under attack anyways and then end up in the war effort just like Tsunade wanted. But since we're talking about the war arc, let's talk about the war arc. Tsunade becomes the 3rd ever person to be transferred using the Heavenly Transfer technique. This is a technique that is specific to the Raikage's assistant Mabui that allows her to usually teleport inanimate objects anywhere on Earth at the speed of light. Prior to the war arc, the only person that had ever been able to survive said technique was the 3rd Raikage because of his lightning cloak. It's hard to survive because your body's moving at light speed. That's not easy for a lot of people. But during the war arc, her and the 4th Raikage are actually able to be transported to the battleground where Madara is fighting the 4th division using this technique, which means her durability is on par with the 3rd and 4th Raikages who can cloak themselves in a lightning cloak that is almost impenetrable. Tsunade is teleported to the battlefield because Madara is simply destroying the 4th division and only Gaara and the 3rd Tsuchikage Inoki are there to fight him. She pulls up and heals both of them from the injuries that Madara had inflicted upon them, and with the 5 other Kage launched an assault on Madara. 4 other Kage, the 5 Kage, you get it. And it's at this point that Madara makes 25 wood clones and puts Susanos on all of them to fight the 5 Kage. And once the Kage are done defeating those wood clones, they pull up on Madara. It's at this point that Madara runs Tsunade through with a Susanoo sword from his complete Susanoo form. He's then, well, like, okay, I got her, I can now focus on the other 4, until Tsunade pulls a Susanoo sword out of her stomach and begins to use it to attack Madara. This is all because she had her 100 healings, her Byakuya seal activated that allows her to massively regenerate her cells 100 times over. Unfortunately, this isn't enough. Eventually, Madara releases himself from the Edo Tensei control of Kabuto and is now independent to do what he wants. It's at this point that he decides he's going after Naruto, and the 5 Kage try to stop him, and all die. Well, more or less die. They're all on the brink of death, including Tsunade, who has been cut in half, but she has enough chakra left while being cut in half to summon Lady Katsuyo. She, while in half, brings the other 4 Kage back from the brink of death. And then Suigetsu, Karin, and Orochimaru find her body, and Karin allows her to bite her, which refills all of her chakra. Suigetsu brings her 2 halves together, and then Katsuyo kind of fuses them together. It's at this point that the 5 Kage return to the battlefield and Sakura and Tsunade come together to summon even more of Lady Katsuyo. Because here's the thing about Lady Katsuyo, she's larger than a mountain, and both Sakura and Tsunade, when they had their Byakuya seals activated, were only able to summon 70% of her. To this point that Lady Katsuyo basically dissolves into the battlefield and goes to every single shinobi to heal them. If you don't think that's the strongest summon in the entirety of Naruto, I'm sorry, you're wrong. And then a bunch of other things happen and the war arc is done. Yay, we did it. And here's the thing. People believe that directly after the 4th Great Ninja War that Tsunade kind of resigns and that Kakashi takes over as Hokage immediately. But we actually learned in Kakashi Hiden, Lightning in the Icy Sky, Kakashi's light novel, that while he was appointed to be the 6th Hokage directly after the 4th Great Ninja War, he didn't assume the responsibilities for over a year. In fact, Kakashi was assigned to protect a ship's maiden voyage, but the ship gets hijacked on its way to the Hidden Stone. A bunch of things happen. Essentially, Kakashi saves the day and stops the ship from essentially imposing a threat on the Hidden Stone village. But unfortunately, several passengers on the ship do die. So Tsunade says, make sure you keep the head hijacker alive so he can stand trial for this. And by the time he gets back to Konoha, Tsunade is about to put him through a trial and pass down judgment. But Kakashi steps in and says he wants to pass down the judgment since he was the person there. Tsunade then insists that the only way that she's going to allow that to happen is if it is his first act as Hokage. And that's when he takes over. Tsunade's appearance since then has been sparing, to say the least. We see her appear 2 years after Kakashi has taken over as Hokage to have drinks with Sakura and Sakura Hiden, Sakura's light novel. Sakura and her sit at the bar, and essentially Sakura asks her how to gain the attention of men, to which Tsunade unfortunately has no real answers to, considering You know, these have been doing the majority of the work for her entire life. After that, we don't see her again until Konoha Hiden, the day that Naruto and Hinata are married, you know, episode 750 of Naruto. And that's it. That's the story of Tsunade. I could go into the specifics of her strengths, but I feel like just knowing her story really speaks for her strength more than a list. While some people might believe that she is simply a medical ninja, and even in her circumstance, that would not be a diss, she reinvented how Konoha approached ninja teams. And on top of that, she rewrote the book on medicinal practices, making things that seemed impossible possible. But on top of that, she's an incredibly powerful Kunaichi, being able to break Susanoo rib cages with a kick. She's a Senju with the Byakuya seal that allows her to heal herself 100 times over. Her chakra control is so mastered that she can leak a little bit of chakra out of her Byakuya seal to keep her looking young every single day. That requires her to keep a perfect balance on her cell's mitotic regeneration in order to keep her skin from aging. That is insanely powerful. It is not talked about enough. But you know her story now, so you know how strong she is. I don't have to do a list for you. You know what I do have to list off for you though? The reasons why you should like this video, subscribe to this page, and hit that noti bell. And all of them are just because I would love your support. I'm not saying that 106 is too much, but like, what are you gonna do with all that, you know?